Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Phantom Pianist. Holly Arnold had always been drawn to the Isle of Wight. As a professional pianist, she had traveled far and wide, but the island's haunting beauty and history captivated her like no other place. Once she heard about an old, abandoned mansion there, rumored to house a haunted piano. She couldn't resist the pull. The mansion stood on a lonely cliff overlooking the sea, its windows dark and foreboding. The locals whispered about it in hushed tones, speaking of strange noises and ghostly apparitions. But Holly, driven by curiosity and the promise of a unique musical experience, was undeterred. She arrived at the mansion on a foggy evening, the sea's waves crashing against the rocks below like a sinister symphony. As she pushed open the creaking door, the air inside was cold and heavy, laden with the scent of decay and neglect. Dust motes danced in the dim light filtering through cracked windows, and the floorboards groaned beneath her feet. In the grand parlor she found the piano. It was a grand, ebony instrument, covered in dust but still majestic. Holly approached it reverently, her fingers itching to play. As she brushed the keys, a chill ran down her spine. The piano seemed to hum with a life of its own. Taking a deep breath, Holly sat on the old bench and began to play. The first notes were hesitant, but as she continued, the music flowed more smoothly. It was a melancholic tune, one she had never heard before but felt compelled to play. The room around her seemed to darken, the shadows lengthening and deepening. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and Holly's fingers moved faster, driven by an unseen force. The room disappeared, and she found herself transported to a realm of darkness. The only light came from the glowing keys of the piano. Holly's heart pounded as she realized she was no longer alone. Spectral figures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They were the spirits of the past, each with a story etched in sorrow and unfinished business. They surrounded her, their whispers filling the air. The first spirit stepped forward, a young woman with hollow eyes and a blood-stained dress. "I am Eliza," she whispered, her voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "You killed me here, in this very room. My love betrayed me, and my soul cannot rest until justice is done." Holly's fingers continued to play, the music growing more intense as Eliza's story unfolded. The pain and betrayal were palpable, and Holly felt tears streaming down her face. The melody shifted, becoming a requiem for the lost soul. As the final notes of Eliza's story faded, another spirit stepped forward, a man with a twisted grin and empty eyes. "I am James," he hissed. "I took what was not mine, and I paid the price. My greed led to my demise, and now I am doomed to wander these halls." The music changed again, a dark and foreboding tune that spoke of James's avarice and downfall. Holly's fingers flew over the keys, the piano vibrating with the intensity of the composition. James's spectral form flickered, his story unraveling in the haunting notes. One by one, the spirits came forward, each revealing their tragic tales. There was Margaret, who died of a broken heart, and Edward, who was consumed by madness. Each spirit was bound to the piano, their stories intertwined with its haunting melodies. Holly played on, her body growing cold and weary, but she could not stop. The piano demanded it, the spirits needed it. As the last spirit stepped forward, Holly recognized him immediately. It was the former owner of the mansion, a brilliant pianist named Victor Beaumont. Victor had been a prodigy, his music enchanting all who heard it. But he had made a pact with dark forces, seeking eternal fame and glory. The price of his ambition had been his soul, and now he was trapped, his spirit haunting the piano he once loved. "I am Victor," he said, his voice filled with regret. "I wanted to be remembered forever, but I lost everything. My music became a curse, and I cannot escape this darkness." Holly's fingers trembled as she played Victor's final composition. It was a piece of unparalleled beauty and sorrow, a lament for a soul lost to ambition. The piano wept with the melody, the notes echoing through the dark realm. As the last note faded, a blinding light filled the room. The spirits began to dissipate, their forms dissolving into the light. Holly felt herself being pulled back, the darkness receding. She was in the parlor once more, the piano silent and still. The sun was rising outside, casting a golden glow over the room. Holly's hands were trembling, but she felt a strange sense of peace. The spirits were gone, their stories told, their souls finally at rest. Holly stood and walked to the window, looking out at the sea. The waves were calm now, the storm having passed. She knew she would never forget the haunted piano and the spirits who had found solace in her music. As she left the mansion, Holly felt a new sense of purpose. She would tell their stories, share their music with the world. The piano had given her a gift, and she would honor it. And as she walked away, the faint sound of a piano playing a gentle, haunting melody followed her, a reminder of the souls she had helped to free. Holly returned to her home, a quaint cottage on the mainland, feeling both relieved and burdened by the memories of the mansion. For days, she couldn't shake the haunting melodies from her mind. Every time she sat at her own piano, her fingers would instinctively drift towards the pieces she had played in the haunted mansion. Each note resonated with the weight of the stories she had uncovered. Determined to honor the spirits, Holly began composing a series of pieces inspired by each ghost's tale. She called the collection the Phantom Suite. Each movement was dedicated to a spirit, capturing the essence of their story through music. The first piece, Eliza's Lament, was a sorrowful ballad that conveyed the heartbreak and betrayal Eliza had endured. James's Greed was a darker, more aggressive piece, its dissonant chords reflecting his avarice and eventual downfall. As Holly composed, she felt a strange connection to the spirits. It was as if they were guiding her hands, helping her bring their stories to life. The music flowed through her, almost effortlessly, as if she were merely a conduit for their emotions. Each piece was a catharsis, both for Holly and for the spirits. Word of Holly's new composition spread quickly. Musicians and music lovers alike were captivated by the haunting beauty of her work. She was invited to perform the Phantom Suite at a prestigious concert hall in London. Holly saw this as the perfect opportunity to share the spirit stories with a wider audience. The night of the concert arrived, and the hall was filled to capacity. Holly took a deep breath as she stepped onto the stage, the grand piano gleaming under the spotlight. She could feel the weight of the spirits' expectations on her shoulders, but she was determined to do them justice. As Holly began to play, the audience was immediately entranced. The music was unlike anything they had ever heard, haunting, beautiful, and deeply emotional. Each note seemed to carry a piece of the spirits' souls, reaching out and touching the hearts of everyone present. Holly's fingers danced over the keys, bringing the ghosts' stories to life. When she finished the final piece, Victor's Lament, there was a moment of stunned silence before the audience erupted into applause. Tears streamed down Holly's face as she stood and bowed, feeling the spirits' presence around her, their gratitude palpable. After the concert, Holly was approached by numerous people, all eager to praise her performance and learn more about the inspiration behind the Phantom Suite. She shared the story of the haunted mansion and the spirits she had encountered, each revelation met with awe and fascination. Among the crowd was an elderly man with a kind smile and twinkling eyes. He introduced himself as Professor Reginald Smythe, a historian specializing in the supernatural. He had heard rumors of the haunted mansion and was eager to learn more about Holly's experience. Intrigued by the professor's genuine interest, Holly agreed to meet with him the next day. They spent hours discussing the mansion, the spirits, and the music that had come from her encounter. Professor Smythe was particularly fascinated by the story of Victor Beaumont and his pact with dark forces. "The history of that mansion is indeed tragic," Professor Smythe said, his voice thoughtful. "But it seems you have brought peace to those lost souls. Your music has given them a voice and allowed them to find rest." As they talked, an idea began to form in Holly's mind. What if there were other haunted places, other spirits with stories that needed to be told? She had discovered a unique gift, a way to connect with the past through music. Perhaps her journey was only beginning. With Professor Smythe's help, Holly began researching other locations with haunted histories. They traveled across the country, visiting old manors, abandoned asylums, and forgotten battlefields. At each place, Holly would seek out the piano, or any instrument available, and play. Sometimes the spirits would reveal themselves, and other times they remained hidden, their stories too deeply buried to surface. Despite the challenges, Holly's reputation grew. She became known as the Phantom Pianist, a musician who could bridge the gap between the living and the dead through her haunting compositions. Her concerts drew larger and larger crowds, and she used her platform to share the stories of the spirits she encountered, raising awareness about their tragic pasts. One particularly memorable experience took place at an old Victorian theatre in the heart of Edinburgh. The theatre had been closed for decades after a devastating fire claimed the lives of many performers and audience members. Holly felt a strong pull towards the grand piano on the stage, its keys charred and blackened but still functional. As she played, the air grew thick with smoke, and the faint smell of burning wood filled her nostrils. The spirits of the theatre began to appear, actors, musicians, and patrons, all trapped in the moment of their fiery demise. Their stories were heartbreaking, filled with unfulfilled dreams and untimely ends. Through her music, Holly told their stories, each note a tribute to their memory. As she played the final piece, a lullaby for a child who had perished in the fire, the theatre seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The spirits faded, the anguish soothed by the haunting melody. Holly's journey continued, each new location bringing its own challenges and rewards. She encountered spirits from all walks of life, each with a unique story and a need for closure. Through her music, Holly helped them find peace, one haunting melody at a time. Years passed, and Holly's hair turned silver, but her passion for her work never waned. She had amassed a vast collection of compositions, each one a testament to the spirit she had encountered. Her concerts were legendary, drawing people from all over the world who were eager to hear the ghostly tales woven into her music. One day, Holly received a letter from a distant relative of Victor Beaumont. The letter spoke of a hidden room in the mansion on the Isle of Wight, one that contained Victor's final, unfinished composition. Holly felt a shiver of anticipation as she read the letter. She knew she had to return to where it all began. The mansion was just as she remembered it, standing tall and foreboding on the cliff. As she entered, the air was thick with memories. Holly made her way to the parlor, the piano still standing silently in the center of the room. But this time, she felt a new presence, a sense of anticipation and completion. With the letter as her guide, Holly found the hidden room. It was small and dusty, filled with old manuscripts and a single, ornate music box. Inside the box was Victor's final composition, a piece that had never been played. Holly sat at the piano and began to play. The music was hauntingly beautiful, a combination of all the spirit's stories and Victor's own tortured soul. As the final notes echoed through the mansion, Holly felt a sense of completion. The spirits had found their peace, and so had she. Years later, Holly's legacy lived on through her music. The Phantom Suite and her other compositions continued to be performed by musicians around the world, each note a tribute to the spirits who have found their voice through her. Holly had bridged the gap between the living and the dead, using her gift to bring peace to those who needed it most. And though Holly herself had passed on, her music endured, a haunting reminder of the power of storytelling and the enduring spirit of the Phantom Pianist. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had a great day.